is Patti Brayfield. I am the founder and the volunteer director of Project 360 Youth Services. This all started out in 2014 when I attended one of my church conventions and learned quite by accident that a group in Texas were struggling to keep kids in high school. And I thought, how horrible would that be if you were a homeless teen wanting to finish school and you had no adult support at all? I thought about that for a long time, and through a series of accidents, mainly hearing a speaker at Rotary one day talking about the poverty level among our children and our dropout rate, suddenly dawned on me maybe Laclede County has the same problem. So through a series of phone calls, I found out that indeed our dropout rate here is almost entirely due to kids with no parental support to keep them in high school, to give them the emotional support they need, to give them the support for medical and dental needs, and to keep their bodies as healthy as possible and their mental outlook as healthy as possible. So I decided that someone had to do something. And so I quickly started working with the Lebanon-REDI School District. The administration was very much on board with this because this is a group of kids that they try to work with but have limited time and resources. And so we were off and running. Got a board of directors. I went to the Rotary Club where I'm a member, and I asked for some seed money, and they gave me a couple of $1,000 so we could get all the legalities taken care of, sign up and get your 501c3s, form your corporation, everything you need to do to move forward. Then we started looking for a place where we could meet with these young people and give them the support they needed. And so it came down to the fact that who do you call but your local economic development director. And so I called on Brian, and Brian and I went around and looked at every single vacant property in the area that the kids could actually walk, because if you're homeless, I can guarantee you're totally on foot. If you are at risk of being homeless and in very unstable home conditions, I can guarantee you're on foot. So we had to find a location that worked for all of us. We have had over 270 different teenagers, ages 13 to 20, who have come here to the Sound House. And by the way, the kids named this facility the Sound House, a place where everyone is heard. And a group of adults could never have come up with anything that good, because this is the one place where they're very, very important. We open at 3 o'clock when school is out, and because we don't want to discourage anyone from going to school. And once they arrive here, we have after-school snacks, we have life skills training, we have guitar lessons, we have an architect helping them with a CAD program. We have a hot meal that comes in at 5:30 every day, and that is extremely important. That's provided to us by most of the local churches and a few individual groups that make sure that these kids have a hot, nutritious meal every day. We sit down at a big table, we eat family style, we talk just like the kind of family that these kids don't have, where you're actually interacting as a group, young and old together, exchanging ideas, and mainly laughing. It's the happiest part of their day. We have a computer lab. 7 different computers were supplied to us by the Missouri Cooperage Division of Independent Stave, and that allows us to have an area where we can do tutoring, we can do homework, we can do job applications, we can practice interview questions, and also just use the computers for fun, because what kid doesn't like social media? This particular endeavor required a huge leap of faith, because we started out with no kids at all. and we had to choose our facility before we even got started. And it was a little bit scary because the spot that we finally found was about 3,000 square feet. And the board that directs Project 360 really debated, should we take half of that spot? Should we take the whole spot? And we decided, if we're going to do it, let's do it right. And what a good decision that turned out to be. We have almost 3,000 square feet, which allows us to have a full-size bathroom with showers, because these kids do occasionally need to shower. We've got 2 washers and dryers so they can bring in laundry here. We have a young men's closet where they can shop for shoes, jeans, whatever they need. And then the girls' closet is full of much more fashionable things. We're very picky about the clothes we put in these closets. We want them to be clean, neat, untorn, and fashionable, because these kids really do desire to look and to be like everyone else. So we do our very best on that. We have musical instruments. Right now we have a gentleman who's giving guitar lessons to those who are interested. We have 2 pool tables. We have a ping pong table. We have board games galore. We play games. We play cards with the kids. Anything that gives them the opportunity to interact in a very positive way with adults that want to support them, to help keep them in school, to look at their grade cards and talk about what's going right on the grade card and what's not going right on the grade card. And it can be extremely important to these young people to have someone who's actually interested in what's happening with them academically, as well as what's going on with them emotionally, because these are teenagers. They have the same angst that any teenager has, but having someone who will actually listen, I think, is extremely important. Thus, the Sound House, a place where everyone is heard.
Let's talk about
of the 271 young people who've come here, not all have been willing to accept help. It kind of depends on what's going on in their life at that particular time and how they're finding to comfort themselves. But those that do come here really are interested in making a more complete life for themselves, and they will set a goal and work towards it. And we don't care what the goal is. It could be as simple as passing math this year, or it can be as big as, how do I get by at home? How do I live with what's going on there so I'll have a roof over my head until I graduate? It's that big of an item. Most of the young people come back. We've only been open 2.5 years, but most of the kids come back. We lose them only when they graduate and successfully get a job and move on. And that's exactly how we want them to exit here, being able to say, okay, I did it, got my diploma, now I've got a job and I'm ready to move on. Those young people still come back and visit from time to time, because the bonds that have been created between the volunteers and these kids is very real, I will tell you that. I think the important thing also is that we're very blessed here to have as many men volunteers as we have women volunteers. And many of these young people have no father figure at home, and they have many times, other than their teachers in school, no one to model themselves after if they're a young man or a young lady. And we think that it's very important that them see adults getting along, treating each other with respect, treating them with respect. It's been very, very worthwhile. So I think that's what brings the kids who are interested in making a success of their life coming back. Our vision at the very beginning, when we decided that this had to happen, and I had gathered a group of people who said, yes, we want to be on the board, we want to help you, we want to make this happen. There were so many different layers involved. The first thing, there was basically the kitchen in Springfield, Missouri runs a facility that we were envisioning called Rare Breed. And when I called the kitchen, who deals extensively and has for many, many years with a homeless population in Springfield, Missouri. When I called them and asked for help, they were ready to go. They said, come on down, we're going to give you all our documents, take our procedural manual, don't start from scratch, just edit it to work with what you want, come and see our kids, come and see what we're doing. And that saved us a tremendous amount of time. We didn't have to reinvent the wheel. We had such a wonderful model set up for us, and all we really had to do was tweak it, because we have found that homeless youth and a rural community are quite different from homeless youth in a metropolitan area. So we've learned a lot about that, but I think the fact that the youth here are more open to adults due to the fact of it being out in the country, that they are a little bit more open and easy to work with. And so it's allowed us to move very, very quickly. I mean, we was starting out with 12 kids, and it just went from there. And we involved the kids from the very beginning. Number one, you name for the facility. Number two, what should the rules and regulations be inside for your behavior? They set those themselves. What do you need when you come here? And they said they needed food, and they needed somebody to listen to them, and they needed encouragement. And the fact that it went together so fast, so many in the community stepped forward, so many people said, here, let me write you a check, that it came together with a speed that I never really expected. I simply put the call out, oh, one thing that the kids really wants a pool table. Where in the world are we going to get a pool table? Bam! 2 pool tables donated. We have a 3,000 square foot facility. We didn't buy a stick of furniture for it. Every single piece, including the books, the supplies, the computers, everything has been donated by the community, because the community said, we had no idea that we had kids here in that kind of unstable condition. We knew we had poverty, but we always thought of it as family poverty, mom and dad and the poor kids needing this, that, and the other. We never thought about teenagers having to make it on their own, being at home, but it being unstable because daddy's in jail or mama's on crack. We never even thought about that. And when the community got their awareness, like the board and myself did, wonderful things happened. I mean, we didn't buy our washers and dryers. We bought nothing. We simply asked the community, we need these materials and we need this money. And they have been behind us from the very, very beginning. And we know we are impacting the dropout rate. We know we are. We're only 2.5 years old. Our statistics are just now starting to come together in a meaningful way. But we know the mental agony of many of these kids. We see depression, we see PTSD, we see just about every condition you can imagine that a youth might have living in an unstable life from the time that they're young. And the community has said, no, we don't want this. We're stepping behind you. We're going to be there. And it's been a miracle, but they really have been. We have grown. Our number one problem from the very beginning was the fact that all these kids are on foot. They have no cars. Few of them have even bicycles. And so if they want to go somewhere, this community walks. And I mean, most of these kids think nothing of walking 5 miles to go to Walmart and then 5 miles back, which is beyond my comprehension. And so we knew that the problem was we could get the young people here on the school bus. The kids that had already dropped out appeared to live in the downtown area, which made them able to walk to us. But when it was dark out or raining or sleeting or snowing, where do they go? How do they get back to where they're living? I will tell you, most of our youth are not homeless like they are in Springfield. We don't have kids living in culverts. I think, again, this is because this is a rural community and people reach out. And if one young fella says to his parents, hey, Johnny has nowhere to sleep. Johnny's getting someplace to sleep, at least for a while. So transportation has just been huge because we knew we were getting only part of the kids that ought to be here because they couldn't get back to wherever they were staying that night. And out of the blue, we get funding. We get an individual, not even on the board of directors, that goes out and raises $15,000, and we get a foundation to give us another 10, and voila, we've got a 12-passenger van paid for. Now, is that incredible? Pretty incredible. So that moved us to the next step very quickly. All that happened in 2 years. Now we have just been granted given a grant that we applied for a year ago and had kind of lost hope. And this is going to take us even to the next level. Because even though we are 100% volunteer at this time, being totally volunteer directed, and I mean like 8,000 hours given so far from the community adults wanting to help these kids, we know we still aren't getting even half the kids that need us. The grant came through, and we're going to be able to get a 29-passenger shuttle bus. We love our van, we'll always use it, but you can only get 10 kids in there, and it's already full. We are going to get, for 3 years, a full-time outreach coordinator to go out there and find these kids, to go into the schools, to have lunch with them. These kids don't want to be identified. It's very tricky, and because they're teenagers, they want to do things in pairs, and they only want to go somewhere where they feel comfortable. So teenagers on their own don't walk in here. It's too scary. They don't know the kids, they don't know the adults, they won't come. So now we're going to have someone go out, find them, and bring them in here so we can give them the services, give them the attention and the support that they deserve, and help them to become stable adults. We're also going to have with that a 3-year position of a goals coordinator, someone that can sit down with each and every one of them, help them determine what their goals should be, and it can be short-term like passing math this semester, or it can be long-term. And this goals coordinator will work with them every 2 weeks, meet with them and see how they're doing. Determine, do they need to be in counseling? Are they depressed? Do they need to see a dentist? Do they need to see a doctor? We have all the resources to make all that happen, but you've got to know about it first. And even though the volunteers here have been trying to do that service, the one-on-one, digging down deep to find out what these kids need, I can't tell you how difficult that is with a volunteer staff, because most of them come every single week for 2 hours, but that still doesn't give you continuity that you need. So we are expecting to more than double our numbers in 6 months, and the sky's the limit from there. We're hoping of this 3,000 square feet, we have it full, and we think we will pretty soon. We need support on a lot of little different levels. Obviously, we've got a 3,000 square foot facility, and there's overhead that we have to meet. So we appreciate so much help with that, because there's no grants to cover overhead, and that is something that's so important. What's going to happen to us if we can't afford to have a place to have these kids? This is their home, and they will tell you this is their favorite place in the world. Most of them were open from 3 to 7. Most of them arrive as soon as we pick them up from school, or they walk here, and they stay until we leave at 7 o'clock. So this is their safe place. These young people will tell you this is the one place where there is no stress, no hassle, no bullying, and just a happy place to be where they have really good interactions. And if you ask them what do they think of the adults here, they have glowing things to say. And the first time a young lady told me that I was the closest thing she'd ever had to a mother. And it was all I could do, first of all, not to cry, because I probably didn't spend 2 hours a week with her, because I've got so much going on to just keep the thing running. But I listened, and all the volunteers here listen. So if you like teenagers and you're willing to listen, you don't have to have any special skills other than to care for them and to want to help them get on the right path to become a successful adult. Volunteers here have to be 21 years old because you do need a level of maturity, and you also need to be able to dedicate at least 2 hours a week. Many volunteers that come here and say they'd like to give 2 hours a week, before you know it, they're asking, well, can I just stay for the whole shift? Because it is a positive experience. It's a challenge too. I mean, these are teenagers after all, and it's not like they're not like necessarily the kids you raised in your own home because they've got so much baggage, but they are open and wonderful and caring kids, and they just appreciate being appreciated. And just saying to them, well, that was a very adult way to think. You see them just puff up because no one ever tells them, hey, that was a good decision. So there's many ways to support them. So we need time. So if you can give your time, we more than welcome it. We even need bus drivers, people to shuttle these kids back and forth because we can't put that all on one person. So having a chauffeur's license or a CDL with a passenger rider, you can just even get on our driver list and do that. Or you can open your heart, give us financial support, which is imperative, not only for our overhead, but for the needs these young people have. Because if they get a job at fast food, they've got to have black non-slip shoes. And those don't just appear out of the sky. We have to have the money to do that. If they really need to see the doctor, we can get them in for a doctor's appointment, but who's going to pay the copay? We have to. So there has to be money for so many different things you would never think of, that we appreciate that check for $5. We appreciate that check for $5,000. Any amount is very, very welcome. When you work within a nonprofit like this, you really don't look for or expect or need recognition. But when it comes, it's pretty darn special. This year, the Chamber of Commerce named Project 360 the Nonprofit of the Year, and we were very, very pleased to be recognized, and that means the community does see that what we're doing is important and that we're accomplishing it, and they want to stand behind it. As if that wasn't enough, the Lebanon Area Foundation has just named us as Hometown Hero 2018 in the nonprofit sector. To be recognized by the community for what you're trying to do with these kids is a wonderful honor, but more than anything else, it's a wonderful aid to us, because by having these two really wonderful pieces of recognition, it brings even more of the community up to an awareness level where they say, well, that's neat, I want to help too. So we're really grateful for those honors. They weren't expected or needed or wanted, but very appreciated. You would think that basically this whole endeavor is just for these particular teenagers, and certainly it is. But not only is it important to our community that these kids graduate, but you have to look at why it's important that they graduate. Why should we care? And typically, we don't think about the fact that the performance of these young people, their ability to move from being a teenager to a successful adult, means that they don't enter or remain in the cycle of poverty. So that means we've got to have a workforce here that is educated and ready to work, And believe me, we spent a lot of time on job preparation and practicing interview questions and employer expectations. That is important for Laclede County to grow. We have to have a population that is willing and able to work, and that brings good things to absolutely everyone, even those not involved in Project 360. So there's ramifications in every direction.